following program may contain coarse language, suggestive dialogue, and discussion of violent imagery and sexual situations. It is intended for mature listeners who can tell the difference between facts and opinions.
This is Stephanie Nadolny, the voice of Goku in Dragon Ball, Goku Mini in Dragon Ball Daima, and Gohan in Dragon Ball Z. And you're listening to a Toonami Faithful Podcast exclusive.
Welcome to this Toonami Faithful Podcast exclusive. I am your host, Sketch, and with me I have my co-host, Paul Pasquillo.
Hello.
And we are super excited to have a very special guest on. We have the voice of young Goku, Stephanie Nadolny.
Hey, what's going on out there?
A lot. Let's not get into that.
Right. Exactly.
Because we're here to talk about you and Kid Goku.
I like that.
Yes.
And Kid Gohan as well from OG Dragon
Kid
Ball
Gohan.
Z.
Yeah, maybe some people don't realize you were Gohan before you were Goku.
I sure was.
But let's take it back a little before that. How did you begin your acting journey?
Well, I was doing acting and singing and dancing as a very young child, even as far back as being a toddler. Anything and all things music and the voice is where it started for me. So I had an ear for it and a love and passion for it at an extremely young age. And that's what I wanted to do with my life. And as I got, through high school and into college, I went to UNT here in Denton, Texas, for music and dramatic arts, and was quickly swept up by an internationally known show band called Vince Vance and the Valiants, featuring the vivacious vixens of rock and roll, Venus, Violet, and Victoria, and Veronica, and Vanessa, and Venus, and all kinds of other V-named starlets throughout the years. So I toured and professionally from 91 on a couple decades and beyond, and just through the industry met other people, other bands, other performers, started singing locally with various show bands in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex after I got off the road. And now I'm touring all over with the Comic-Con circuit, comic book stores, pop culture collectible events of all kinds, and especially with my return to Dragon Ball Daima as OG Goku Mini.
Yeah. So back in 1998, Funimation took over dubbing Dragon Ball Z and took it in-house in Texas. How did you end up voicing Kid Gohan in the Frieza saga?
Well, I caught the attention of what I didn't know was the director who was going to Canada to retrieve the vocal files for Dragon Ball Z before Funimation decided to make that change. And I didn't know about any of that till, a while later as I got further into the job. But I was, caught the eye of Barry Watson, who brought me in for the audition, I guess 6 to 8 months later. And I auditioned for all the female roles. I had no idea what anime was. I knew it was an animated feature show. Also didn't know that it was going to be airing on Cartoon Network, and jet my career into, many years of voice acting. So yeah, I showed up for the audition. It was November 1998, and was contacted, I guess, a week or two later to let me know that they had decided to cast me in the role of Gohan. And I did not think about auditioning for any roles that were male. But before I left the audition, I was asked to do the voice of a young boy. And I threw out what I thought sounded like a cute little boy voice. And they asked me to make it more raspy and grovelly. And so I delivered that rendition, and they liked it. It's kind of started out a more like a kid voice. And they wanted to be a little more raspy. So, all right, I can give you some more rasp. How about this? And that's where it all began. So I started coming in to record in person in December of 1999, and I guess I got my years wrong. No, January of 99. So yeah, 1998 was the audition, cast in late November, early December 1998. Started recording the end of the year and the first of the year. But I was only coming in, every few months at first because Gohan was kind of a supporting role. And we would do, several episodes at a time, usually 2 to 3 hours at a time. And we would knock out quite a bit of material, even back in those days, rewinding and fast forwarding. And then the shows were released on VHS tapes and onto Toonami's Cartoon Network's Toonami, I guess. And then from there, the company grew and expanded and took over more office space. And then the Burger King promotion kind of came out around 2000, and that was a big deal, where the Burger King was giving out little
I
small
remember
statues
that. I had
of
to go on one.
various characters. Yeah. So again, I didn't realize how big the franchise was, but once I went overseas with my show band in summer of 2000, I saw Dragon Ball Z in Italian on my TV in Italy and bought my first Dragon Ball Z um, merchandise over there. I bought some manga and a hoodie of all the Dragon Ball Z characters and was like, wow, okay, this is way bigger than I thought. And when the company started acquiring other properties like Blue Gender and Dragon Ball and Case Closed, Fruits Basket, Yu Yu Hakusho, things like that, I started working as a singer for the anime themes, along with a very prominent producer who fronts Brave Combo, which is an Grammy Award winning polka band out of Denton, Texas, which is where I live now. And I started kind of being mentored by him, Carl Finch, and he would bring in the musicians and we would record the anime theme. So my first anime theme where I sang the theme was Yu Yu Hakusho Sayonara Bye Bye, which is probably the most recognized of the ones I did. I probably did about 8 or 9 of them. And then I also was brought in to direct some other singers, being that I had already had many years of experience recruiting young starlets that could sing and dance and perform and, become characters on stage. So this was a 50s to the 90s Vegas style B-52s ish type band where we covered all kinds of music. And Vince Vance would change costumes and we would sing, 3-part harmonies and oldies. And then he would come back out on stage and we would perform together. And then we would leave to change costumes many, many times. And it was very theatrical and really pretty much right up my alley, as I had auditioned for Disney and Six Flags and was an alternate. Actually turned down a couple of them because I was very immersed in my, college experiences trying to get a degree. But when I got the job with Vince Vance and the Valiants, it proved to be kind of, I had to kind of choose at that point whether I was going to stay in college, get a degree, or take off in a show band and be gone, 200, well, close to 300 days a year. And I chose to follow my dream. And I've never regretted that decision because that's how I met all of the people involved in my voice acting career. I was also Helen the Hen for one season with Chuck E. Cheese and was writing and producing comedic parodies, kind of like a Weird Al Yankovic type deal,
Oh,
where I was changing lyrics to songs and putting together, song, basically comedy type stuff. Did a little bit of improv, but it all started with music and the voice, and just kind of progressed from there. And on and off the road, I would come in and record whatever was needed. And Barry Watson, the same director, also decided to cast me as Goku in Dragon Ball, as the prior actress had done that as well. And we, I guess, had similar voices. We're both singers, and Goku and Gohan are related. So I played father and son as boys. And then from there, things just continued to grow with Funimation, and they changed ownership at some point. Uh, I was cast as Goku in Dragon Ball GT, Isekai and Baby Trunks in Dragon Ball Z, as well as some side roles, German English teacher, babies screaming, women crying and fleeing in the village, and various characters. And I'm just now watching Dragon Ball from the beginning now because I hooked up with Crunchyroll and then proceeded with Crunchyroll Premium membership. And so now I'm watching Daima, Dragon Ball Daima, every Friday. And it's just been quite the comeback. Toei Japan brought me back as Goku Mini. I was out of the scene for 16 years. And so I'm back and I'm loving every second of it and living in the moment. Very grateful.
I I'm just thinking back to at the very beginning of that story. It's like, oh, imagine a world where you were Bulma or Chi-Chi instead.
Oh yeah, I mean,
What a world.
yeah, it was I mean, like I said, everybody has a different origin story, but for us, for the most part, we didn't know what Dragon Ball Z was. We didn't even know what Japanese anime was, Japanime, which is anime and it's mainstream now, but back in the day, we were just coming in and auditioning, for a role and wanting to work, and getting cast was life changing, as we can see now. In fact, I didn't even know I had an IMDb or a Wikipedia page. Dan Bradford, my bass player that I met in 2003 with a show band that was traveling a little bit, but mostly Dallas Fort Worth corporate parties, weddings, and clubs. He's the one that told me I had one. And, he's all tech savvy and was really into the internet and got really into YouTube and things like that. So that's where I kind of realized, wow, okay, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. So, and now the franchise is 40 years old, over 40 years old now. I guess the manga came out in 84. The original Dragon Ball was released in Japan in 1986. And last year, actually the end of 2023, which I found out later, Dragon Ball Daima was announced at the New York Comic Con October of 23, and then I was able to be there in person last year, which was October of 2024, to be officially announced in front of like 3,500 people at a panel. And boy, was that fun! I could finally start talking about it. It's like the NDA was signed, so I couldn't say a word, even though the trailer had been released and my voice was on it. And then I did my first official interview there at New York Comic Con last year. So it's great to be back. My anime fans are my anime kiddos. I'm an anime auntie, anime mama. Now my fans are having kids. They're watching Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z with their parents. So it's been quite the journey.
Sure has. So
Hmm.
now that you are back as young Goku in or Goku Mini in Dragon Ball Daima, how does it feel to be back in the role? And it's been a while since you've done any dubbing, right? So how did that
Right.
all feel to get back into all of that?
Well, it's not something. I mean, the 16-year break was not a plan. My characters basically just grew up, and the company kept growing and growing, and now it's Crunchyroll, and it's in a completely different building, taking up multiple office spaces with I don't even know how many studios. I know during COVID, a lot of people were working remotely, recording remotely. I did come back into the scene, voicing Walla roles, which are, villagers, townspeople, maybe a couple of roles in some various animes that I honestly can't even remember the names of them. But I was kind of creeping back in. I never left. I never chose to leave at all. It was never a decision that was made. It was just simply life just happened. I was trying to be settle down and have kids and get married and all these things, and still singing in bands. The Windstar High Rollers was a big focus of mine between 2010 and 2014. We were the senior breakfast house band And we were all hand selected to play each role. There were six of us, and Dan Bradford was the bass player and the musical director. So we started performing Wednesday and Thursday mornings at the ginormous WinStar World Casino located in southeastern Oklahoma, Thackerville. And I focused on that, and that became an amazing show band. I was able to lend my talents from what I'd learned from Vince Vance and the Valiants and bring it into the WinStar High Rollers. I brought in costumes. I started having the guys match the colors that I was wearing. I bought several different colored ties for the guys and started costuming the guys in the band. Our sax player was already kind of famous. He toured with Bruce Springsteen. He's originally from New York. He lives here in Denton as well. And the drummer had worked with us previously, Paul Piper. We had, let's see, Mike Nikosha, who's also an amazing drummer, was also a vocalist and keyboardist, and Randy Vradenberg on guitar. And then as the promotion ended, I did an offshoot band called Moonglass. It's a Moonglass band on Facebook. And we started doing smaller venues, trios mostly. Every once in a while, we do the quartet, which is four-piece band, which is great. We still had the four-part harmonies. And then COVID hit, and we had to just cancel all of our gigs. And obviously, wasn't really doing much voice work unless I could do it from home, which was mostly narrations for Wonderbot Animals. I did some YouTube narrations, mostly children's stuff. Auditioned for a lot of things. Did a couple of voices for a couple of video games over in Croatia, of all places. We all had to adjust our schedules, our work, and how we would bring in an income back in those days. For people that were already working at home, I guess it was a little bit of a easier transition. But for live and studio performance, for me, came to a halt, and for the show band we were in. But we're still here. We survived. We all have things that we can be doing, and that's kind of how I dealt with the pandemic. But with the Goku mini role, that just kind of came out of nowhere for me. I didn't even know that the show had been worked on by the creator Akira Toriyama. But then I found out a whole lot more once I auditioned and was selected by Toei Japan. They have the final say in all of the casting, as well as video games, and social media is heavily monitored. We did lose Akira Toriyama last March, which was very, very sad, but what a legend, what a body of work he left behind. It was, Dragon Ball Z is one of the big ones. I call them the gateway animes that really brought anime into mainstream and what it is today, whether it be Pokemon, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh. There's several. But Dragon Ball Z, was one of the big heavy hitters that helped put the anime on the map here in the United States, being dubbed in English. So it's been quite a treat coming back and watching such huge technological leaps and bounds with how it's recorded, and going back to in-person recording is great. There's nothing like working with a director in person. I can be directed remotely, but there is definitely something special about being in person and really interacting with a director. So I've really enjoyed the run. The director happened to be a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, as well as the ADR director, who was also in the same room. And it's just been a joy. It's been, there really aren't words to describe it. And just being back and doing something new and relevant is, it's like a full circle moment in a way, but I'm definitely not ready to retire by any means. I'm doing a lot of traveling weekends, pretty much every weekend. It's kind of my full-time job now. It's going out there, getting face to face in the trenches with the fans is extremely gratifying and, really feels good. I was already doing conventions, but much more now that I'm back on working on something new. So it's been really exciting. I'm embracing it. I love it. It's great.
Somewhere in that period in which you were not dubbing for the voice of Kid Goku, you did end up voicing the lead character in Cartoon Network's original series, OK KO, Let's Be Heroes, and I've always been curious how that came about.
That's an interesting story. I'm glad you brought that up. I hadn't mentioned that yet. Yeah, so while I was, working in this breakfast show band twice a week in the morning, um, I was found online by the director of OKKO. At the time, the project was in development and was actually titled Lakewood Plaza Turbo. So I
Yeah,
was
what a great
contacted.
title. I love
I
that title.
know, crazy. It's a quirky show. So the director was a big fan and had my voice in mind for the lead character of KO. So I was brought in by their casting agent, Linda Lamontague, she's a big deal in LA. And uh, I recorded a lot of the pilot. Well, I recorded the pilot remotely, got a studio on board and did it that way. But then when the show was actually picked up and was successfully launched, the dubbing process was, well, I guess it wasn't really dubbing because we weren't we
Yeah,
weren't
it was
recording.
prelay.
Yeah, it was prelay, so we had you know images to look at, storyboards and things like that, mostly sketches, and we recorded all at the same time with, you know I guess you call that plexiglass in between, and we all had our own microphone, our own script, and I was flown out there, I don't know, maybe 3 times to do the first 8 episodes. And then when the higher ups basically decided, hey, we need all in person LA talent. So they had to get a voice mimic in to take over, and unfortunately, but that's the cost of doing business sometimes. Not living in a certain region and not being able to come in person, although I would have found a way. Budget constraints led to a replacement, but it was a great opportunity. I loved touring Cartoon Network and being in the LA scene. I did join the union. It was a requirement, because California does residuals and royalties, whereas Texas is a right to work state. So we were paid by the hour and then we're pretty much done, which is probably why the company decided to make the change from, you know, being based in Canada and then switching over to Dallas Fort Worth, Texas, being that it is a right to work state. The company could make a lot more money without having to deal with any unions or residuals or royalties. So a lot of us consider the Comic Cons and the signings, the online. There's all kinds of opportunities for us to uh, chase that income. Now that we've been cast and have done the role for so many years now, we are kind of part of nostalgia. We hear a lot of fans say that, you're my childhood. We got off the bus and ran home from school, to watch it at whatever time it aired. And we got up on early on Saturday mornings. And then there's countries out there that it's dubbed in hundreds of languages. I know that the Mexico City dub in Spanish is huge. And so when I get down to South Texas or to some of the southern states, which is kind of my realm, growing up in Memphis and Houston and various parts of central U.S., I tend to do better down south, in the Valley, McAllen, there's Brownswood and Brownsville, and I always get them mixed up. But I do really well down there. I've done some signings with the Spanish speaking Goku voice, Mario Castaneda. And I do understand a little bit of Spanish, being that I also grew up from ages 8 to 11 on the border of Mexico in Eagle Pass, Texas. So I was actually able to neutralize my southern accent by going into theater and also having lived in parts of Oklahoma and southeastern Kansas. So I can turn on the accent if I need to. And it still sounds southern to some of the northern states anyway. But I think that helped me in my voice acting career, being that sometimes they don't want an accent or they don't want to actually hear a heavy accent unless it's called for in the script or in the the presentation of whatever they're working on. So because as I have auditioned for some roles that were uh, German accents, English accents, and various others. But I think I tend to just naturally be better at the um, not so serious roles, more character roles, a little more comedic. I love to laugh, love to make people laugh. That's saved me in so many ways in my personal life. So, I think I just gravitate towards it. I think I just have a natural talent to just be better at the character voices. Um, I can do more than just young boy voices, but my prominent roles have just been young boys, and I'm fine with that. I definitely have a wider range and would like to be able to utilize that at some point when the right opportunity comes along. So we'll just have to see. I mean, being back in the scene and doing something new and relevant is, I'm in the public eye a little more, so maybe something else will come along. I definitely want to be singing more, writing music, getting back into the studio, recording. But I have a lot of recordings that I need to put up on the internet that were done back in the 90s that just kind of just got shelved. So once I figure out how to do that, my manager and business partner, Dan Bradford, is going to help me with that this year. Sometime this year, I'll be getting that up online so people can listen to it, whether it be Spotify or CD Baby. I'm not sure yet, but I'll be getting some of that stuff out there. I do have a website. It's pretty simple at this time, but it does have where I'm going to be, and some, my demo reel and, some videos and some spots that I think aired on various news stations with some of the appearances I've done. But yeah, I just consider this a rebirth and a comeback, and I'm very grateful for it. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to stay positive.
Do call it a comeback.
Yep, it is.
So you mentioned interacting with one of the other voices of Goku. Are there even more voices of Goku that you have had the opportunity to meet?
Oh yeah, Peter Kalamis is one of the voices of Goku. Ian
Yeah.
Corlett, as well as Sean Schimmel. We're actually going to be for the first time doing a panel in the LA region at Anime Riverside
Oh.
the end of May. I'm super excited about it because we had lost touch. He'd moved away, and we'd lost touch for many years. But we were all, all the OGs. We all met in person way back. I want to say in early 1999 or mid 1999 when we had cast parties at the end of each season or at the end of each, big conclusion of a project. Like I said, that the company just kept growing, and that wasn't really happening anymore. I think after about 2002. But yeah, so I know. I mean, I know the OGs and have known them now over 26 years. So it's really fun to get back into some of uh, the Comic Cons and the anime conventions with some of the folks I've known and worked with, all this time. And Sean being in particular, we're back in contact now for over a year. So we're really excited about doing a panel that dives deep into the production of Daima and how we decided to kind of approach those roles and how we were going to try to tie them in together. Because he's the current voice of Goku and has been for over 25, 26 years now. So it's going to be a really fun, exciting opportunity to do that. I'm hoping it's just him and I doing a panel just solely about Dragon Ball Daima, and the show will actually have wrapped about that time on Netflix and Crunchyroll Premium in English. I'm not sure about Netflix. They don't really tell us when that kind of stuff happens. We kind of have to figure it all out on our own. I know the director is only given certain information, and then I just kind of let it all get announced on its own, and then at that point I can answer questions about whatever might be coming up. If there's going to be another Daima, if there is, I'm led to believe that it would be the adult versions of those characters. So it might be all I have to do as Goku Mini. I'd like to think there'd be more, but it all depends on Akira's executive producer who's taken over, and what he's going to be coming up with as far as new material and connected to the franchise.
Yes. Now, I don't want you to have to repeat yourself at that panel, but we would love to know how did you approach voicing Goku Mini in this, as opposed to Goku in the previous projects?
Well, first of all, I mean, I've been doing the voice on Cameo and shout outs and at conventions pretty much off and on this whole time, specifically, around 2017 through the present. So I've kind of been still utilizing the voice and using it in various projects, pertaining to that kind of stuff. So going back into the studio, it was just a matter of me following direction from a different director. Um, and just diving right in. Thankfully, I feel like the audition went well. The first session went well, so we just kind of took it uh, one recording session at a time. At first, we were moving a little slower. Deadlines weren't quite so tight. So I was in every couple of weeks, maybe around the holidays, it slowed way down. So I was there maybe once in November, once in December, and then January we kind of hit it hard. And then I've wrapped up all of my work on Daima, the show itself, last month. It was sad, it was bittersweet, but we had a really good, rock solid, um, very productive run with Dragon Ball Daima. We didn't rush anything, but we also were very efficient. Once we kind of started going with it in the direction that the director would like to take it. And what was cool about this time around is the director actually offered uh, the opportunity to read, deliver lines, reactions, and battle scene, you know, voicing to myself to try first, to see how it came out, and a lot of times right out the gate, I just intuitively knew how to deliver the lines and how I think Goku would deliver those lines, having done the role years prior. So it was really nice to be able to have some creative input, more so than in a brand new project, or another role in, say, another anime. So, I definitely didn't abuse that line. I kept the line separate, but when the director allowed me to do so, he welcomed it, which was nice. Same with the new game that I keep calling it a new game. For me, it's new. It's Dragon Ball Legends was just released, I think, yesterday, maybe today. I voiced Goku Mini in Dragon Ball, I guess Dragon Ball Z Legends. So for me, it's new. It's brand new. But apparently, the video game's been out 7 years now, which was news to me. So for me, it's brand new. For the fans, it's new as far as Goku Mini being an active character that they can choose when they want a game. I'm not up with video gaming nowadays. I don't game. My experience with video games was in the 80s when I was a kiddo in middle school playing the upright video games like Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, um, Centipede, Cubert. I think a lot of them are still out there. There's still ways to play them for sure. And I've seen some vintage arcade uh, businesses open up, which is super fun to go and play those games like we used to, 30 plus years ago, maybe 40 years ago. Pretty
At
cool.
Chuck E. Cheese.
That's right. That's right. So it's funny. It's like I might post something that or make a comment on something, say on X or Instagram about whatever's going on. Once I know it's been released and I've been given the thumbs up to talk about it. But I'm not a gamer. I don't have Twitch or Discord or whatever some of those other platforms are, and I'm not real familiar with them. So I'm glad that the fans are receptive. They seem to be super excited about it. And it's great to finally kind of see uh, and hear the character, with someone playing the game. It's pretty neat. It's a whole different world, really. But I've gotten a great reception. The fans are great. They're very loyal. They know their stuff, and I mean, I'm simply the voice actor, but it's great to be a part of it, and to hear the feedback is very welcoming. And I've really kind of embraced this role of anime auntie and anime mama, uh, at not having been able to have kids of my own, which I always wanted. So, you know, it's crazy. Life just happens. You plan it as best you can, and it throws you twists and turns and curveballs all the time, and you just don't know when things are going to happen. I lost my mom right after I was cast as Gohan, and I never thought that would ever happen. She was only 51 years old and had a very aggressive environmental toxin form of leukemia that started with benzene, which is a toxin that we were subjected to when I was in high school in Kansas. And so, that was a big one. My mom was my biggest fan. She was always at all of my recitals and my dance and piano competitions. And so, I had all my eggs in that basket with my mom, and my parents split when I was 6. So that was beyond devastating. But when it came time to do the father son Kamea wave in the Cell Saga, I had real life experience to draw from. As much as I'd like to say, hey, I'm a good actor, I really did tap into those emotions that I'd experienced in real life. And I think it added to the performance, to be honest. I mean, how could it not?
Speaking about Gohan, one thing that I wanted to ask about, moving away a little bit from young Goku, there's that iconic scene where Gohan goes Super Saiyan 2. How did you approach that scene?
So it's going to sound kind of funny to people, to your listeners. So I didn't even know about the saga. I'd not seen it first. There was no script given to me. There was no preparation of any kind. I just showed up to work one day, and all of a sudden, Gohan was a badass, and I had to reflect the voice of a really tough, manly voice, very grovelly, very intense. So I just basically just showed up to work for my session, and all of a sudden, we were working on the Cell Saga. So I'm glad that I was able to have that role, and that they trusted me with it. That's great. It's some of my fans say that was an iconic saga, and the Gohan fans loved it. So I basically just went to work one day, and all of a sudden, instead of being like, "Don't hurt my daddy," I'm down here and I'm gruff, and I'm "Let's do this," and screaming and fighting and not wanting to. Gohan never wanted to fight. He definitely didn't want to hurt anybody, but he's a good guy. It just made me feel like I was voicing a superhero, especially when he's wearing the cape and, dressing in the Piccolo outfit. It was a lot of fun. It was very challenging. Definitely the most challenging voice work I've ever done. But being a singer and traveling with a show band all those years, I was using my voice a lot. I knew how to take care of it. I knew how to listen to when it was too much, if it was too much. I never left a session or needed to leave early by any means. I stuck it out. I thankfully had the stamina, but we were doing long sessions back then. But a lot of times we could save the most strenuous scenes and screaming scenes, Kamea waves, whatever it was, for the end of the session. So if you did kind of blow out your voice, you'd have the night or a day maybe in between a session, or maybe even a couple of days or a week to recuperate and to sleep and drink lots of water and kind of nurse the throat back to health. And I had learned how to already do that being in a show band where the show must go on. It's like you didn't just, unless it was a dire emergency or you were, needing to go to the hospital, we did all of our shows. Even if we were sick, you put the stage face on and you do it. So for me, it was just another day at work. It wasn't, the worst days I can remember leaving with a headache, a pounding headache. And then I would just push through it, rest my voice, use steam, breathe in a lot of steam. I had a steamer, the portable one that I carried with me on the road. And, through the flu and sinus infections, I've severe allergies. I'd just done it before, and I had done much more difficult performances being ill, being much more worn down and tired and on the road, sleeping on the airport floors. And sometimes we didn't get a shower because we didn't have time to check into our rooms because we were traveling either by tour bus or vans. We had long commutes to and from airports. We always had to leave on the first flight out or the night before because we had to get there just in case there were delays or weather events, kind of being thrown into the mix. So, as difficult as it was, and it was the most strenuous on my voice as far as voice acting goes, I just learned how to bounce back and be resilient. And the only time I ever had a session end early was when I was in a massive car accident on the way to the studio. I think it was 10 in the morning. A car pulled in front of me and I swerved to avoid hitting it, kind of a reaction, and then was hit by an 18-wheeler and spun around and smashed from the front back. So I was scared out of my mind, thought I was, this was it, right? It was in, I think, the year 2001, maybe 2002. Of course, the car was totaled, and then I had to get a ride to the studio. I wasn't just not going to show up to work. I would have had a really darn good excuse to not show up, but I pressed on and went ahead and went to the session. But the director could tell in my voice that I had been literally traumatized and was going to have to figure out transportation, and I had a lot going on in my mind. So I was, say, hey, let's pick this up on another day. You've been through this horrible accident, like not even an hour ago. And so that was really the only one I can remember where I was like, hey, let's go ahead and call it and we'll pick up on another day. But I was still, I don't know. There's this work ethic. It's like I was trained to do that and wanted to do that. So I wasn't going to miss just because of that. But that's really the only one I can think of that had to be rescheduled, unless there was some kind of a mix up or something like that, or horrendous traffic jam, because the studio was a good solid hour from my house one way. And you have to allow for that stuff. Dallas-Fort Worth is huge, and there's tons of highways, and different times of the day are worse than others. So I don't think it's anywhere near LA from what I've heard, but it's it's just something you have to do. You just incorporate that in your commute.
Okay. I hope you're okay. I hope you were okay from that accident, because that sounds like that was really traumatizing.
It was like I didn't even know if I was injured or how badly I was injured because I was just so intent on getting to work, I think my brother even had to pick me up, and I borrowed his truck for a while until I could get another car. Yeah, no, I'm glad I survived. It was definitely the worst car accident I've ever been in, and whoever veered into my lane just kept driving. So there was, obviously became my fault at that point because I'm the one that swerved. But it is what it is. And, there was a big truck coming in that lane. And had there not been a truck, I would have just swerved right back into my lane. But unfortunately, there was a big, giant tractor trailer, 18-wheeler. But yeah, no, the fans came out and supported me. At the time, I just had, I don't think I had social media. I don't think social media was around back then. But I did have an email, a fan email that I don't even know how everybody found out about it. Because like I said, there was no social media. And I had just gotten a cell phone when my mom got sick and was going through chemo. So those that did catch wind of it, were very supportive. I got letters in the mail saying, we're glad you're okay. So yeah, it was tough, but it's just, things happen. You have to be as prepared as you can to push through it and move forward. It was a learning experience. Sometimes sometimes swerving is not the best idea, even if it feels like a knee-jerk reaction. But I'm glad I survived it, because I was pushed by that car head on once, because I had been twirled around and then hit head on by the 18-wheeler and pushed me back about 75 feet. It was pretty scary, because I had a little Mazda Protege at the time, and it was squished all the way in and bashed in on three sides of the car. But yeah, what a story. I still don't know how I guess it's just, for me, I'm just programmed to go to work. It's like whatever happens, you just go to work, unless you're, in the hospital or with broken legs or, can't speak. There, you just what you do. To this day, I've got a work ethic. I've got to work. I've got to stay productive, hit the pavement every day, and make things happen. I'm a mover and a shaker. Dan calls me his Tasmanian devil. He's like chasing me around. He's retired now, but I keep him busier than he ever was working at a radio station or as a bass player. We laugh about that all the time.
Now, how did voicing Goku differ from voicing Gohan?
Yeah, Gohan was first. He's definitely raspier. His delivery is a little more serious, depending on what's going on in the scenes. Goku's up higher. He's chipper. He's raised in the woods. Not too smart, but boy, is he strong. Um, is a lot of the acting chops kind of came out to differentiate the two. I also don't think I was voicing them at the same time, which could possibly get a little confusing. But if there was ever any issue about, hey, where am I, what did I do last time? The directors could always pull up the last session and give us references so that we can mimic ourselves. But I just listened to the director. I was really excited to be cast as Goku as a boy. And at that point, Goku's the lead character in Dragon Ball. There's a lot of lead characters, but it all starts with him as a boy, as a kiddo, talking about his grandpa, the 4-star ball. His first experience meeting a girl, not knowing the difference between a boy and a girl. There's a lot of comedy. Like I said, I'm watching it for the first time all the way through because we just recorded line to line. We went from scene to scene, line to line, and recorded them that way. And a lot of times we wouldn't have any references. We wouldn't know or hear the other dialogue unless that character, that voice actor had come in previously, and then we could play off of that. But the biggest difference was just, not only changing the voice, but really encompassing a young boy that was raised in the woods and was not very smart. But it also led to a great comedic performance because, some of the lines he says are like, oh my gosh, it's very inappropriate in today's standards, but it's Goku. And so Goku can kind of get away with it because he really genuinely, he's a good guy. He's pure of heart. He loves battles. He loves to train. He loves his power pole. I mean, he's just the little boy I could never be in real life. And I just kind of threw all of it at that concept. And then, of course, follow direction. That has to happen. So, the director really ultimately has the last say in what actually goes through, whether it be the line or an alternate line. And then from there, it goes to editing, it goes to approval, whatever processes that go beyond the session.
Bouncing off of that, so how is it now that you're watching these back? Because obviously you're hearing yourself when you're doing it in the studio, but how is it watching it back now that you're watching it like on Crunchyroll and hearing yourself in both the role of young Goku and Gohan?
It's really fun. It's like it's not something that I'd ever done before. I didn't even know if and when I was even going to do that, but it kind of made sense to jump on the Crunchyroll subscription. Being that Daima was coming, I know that it was released in the Japanese sub first. And so I went ahead and thought, well, we've got Crunchyroll. What are we going to watch? And it's like, let's watch Dragon Ball from the very beginning. And it's really cool because I know all of the voice actors and all the OGs, and I could actually pinpoint their voices and pick them out. Anyway, so that was kind of fun pointing out the characters to Dan and saying, oh, that's so and so, or I used to work with Meredith in a show band in 2000 and she's the voice of Launch and Android 18. And it's just kind of like step by step kind of watching the story progress and laughing incessantly. I remember it was funny, but I didn't see all the scenes at this, I didn't get to watch them then. So watching them now, 25 years later or whatever it really is quite a treat. And I have just a new level of respect for those who did voice the characters, the OG characters, and that a lot of them are still in the business. Some have families and kids, or they've moved away, but a lot of the directors are still directing. And now there's a whole new wave of talent with Crunchyroll. A lot of people move here to go into voice acting specifically because Crunchyroll's here now. At least the Dallas Fort Worth branch, I should say. I think there's one in California as well. Um, but it's just a newfound affection and respect for the property and for how it all began. And seeing the story progress, from the beginning is really a really cool perspective. It gives me perspective for Daima and for having really worked hard at encompassing that character and bringing it back uh, as if I'd never left. And thankfully, that's what I kind of feel like we did. We worked episode by episode, line by line. And thankfully, after I got used to how things are done now with technology and being in person with a new director, there's just some unwritten. There's not really unwritten rules per se, but there's just like a process you go through, and a lot of times I've just kind of hit the line and give a second one, and most times the director selected the first one because it was kind of right out the gate, and not really thinking too hard about it, unless the director had to say, "Oh well, that's too long. We're gonna have to take a couple words out and try this again to make it fit the mouth flaps of what you see, which was already done." So it was a delightful journey, navigating episode by episode. And I did much shorter sessions. We would usually do 2 hours, maybe 3. And I felt fine most of the time, but it was nice to split them up and not really damage the vocal cords, because that's my, it's my instrument. It's my commerce, it's my livelihood. So it was nice to split them up and not do too much in one day. There were days that I did go from one studio across town to another to do video games for Legends. But had a nice little hour drive or whatever, and grab a snack and I'm back at it. And even those sessions are 2 to 3 hours max. I think I've done a couple that were 4, but like I said, we were there back in the olden days when you were there sometimes all day, depending on your line count and whatever it was whatever we were working on at the time, and working with various deadlines for different projects. So I feel like I've kind of like roughed it already, so now it's just easier. And everybody working on the project seems to really be mindful of that, more so back in the day. Like, hey, how you feeling? You need some water? Let's take a break. Let's take a fiver, And it's like, oh, okay, I'll take a break. It's like, if I don't need one, it's nice to have one anyway, just to kind of like, stretch your neck and get some water or get some hot tea and go back at it.
Mm. So obviously you've been in, let's see, Dragon Ball GT, and now Daima. What was the most challenging line or scene that you recorded from any of those series that you remember?
Well, at first it was the crying. Gohan as a boy. Well, first of all, there's a lot of reactions. Those actually came easy for me. Really making each reaction completely different than the others. In fact, I had so many reactions and was recording so many of them at that time that the director called me the reactress, because most of my lines were reactions, or like hanging out with Krillin, watching the action go down and not knowing what to do and holding back all that time. And then when he finally unleashes his power in the Cell Saga, that was definitely the most strenuous. But breaking that ice with the director, who, I didn't know that well early on as Gohan, and having to break that barrier of, I'm not being seen, I'm not on stage, I'm not performing with my band. This is a completely different, it's just a completely different job. It's vocally taxing, but just, you have to encompass everything, every emotion you're trying to emit or convey through the voice only. So, in some ways, I think for some people it would be more challenging than say theater, because I had done lots of musical theater. But in some ways, I think it's easier if you naturally have an ear for the voice and you really know your voice inside and out, which I feel like by that time I did. So I just had to break the ice of getting past that discomfort of like making a weird face or, to get the sound that you want, you have to just forget the fact that they're looking at you through a window and to really just kind of let that go. Because if you really want a good performance, sometimes you're going to make a weird face or you're going to flail around and your arms are going to be flying or you're going to be taking the stance of what your character's doing in the anime visuals. So at first it was that, and plus really kind of trying to figure out what they wanted from me. Okay, really just kind of being quiet and listening and really kind of taking in the direction and figuring out what the director wants. And then once I got familiar with how things were going and more comfortable with immediately knowing where I needed to go with the voice and my throat and the facial expressions that were needed to, deliver lines or whatever it was going on, I naturally just got better at it. I got more efficient at it and we got through quicker. Now, so more than ever with computers and hearing the Japanese line prior to delivering the English line is extremely helpful. We didn't have that back then. We didn't have any reference. In fact, I wasn't even given VHS tape or seen was exposed to anything Dragon Ball Z prior. I didn't even know it existed till much later. So some of the voice actors, I know OG Bulma was given I think a VHS tape to have a listen to audition for Bulma, and some were improv friends in the industry that were called in for auditions that way. So for me, it was just getting past that comfort level of like, I don't know what they want from me, and I'm going to have to contort my face. I'm going to have to contort my body to produce these sounds to really put 100% into it. So once I got past that, it was much easier. And then, because I wasn't called back in for sessions months at a time because I did so much while I was there. We would cover, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 episodes in like 2 hours. So, I wasn't needed. My character didn't come back into play until months later. So just not knowing if, hey, am I doing a good job or not? Am I getting, approval, and every time I get called back, I guess I'm doing something right, because I'm back and, I, nobody ever really said anything wrong other than it's like, stay focused, be on time, stuff like that, with any job. So yeah, it was, once I got past all of that and just relaxed, and, don't take yourself too seriously, which I don't anyway. So I don't let the ego take over. I'm always keeping that in check, staying humble, which I think lends itself to these interactions face to face because I really am just a down to earth, fun loving person who just loves people. So that part of it just, that part's super easy. I don't feel like I'm working at all when I'm at the conventions or doing the appearances or the shout outs. It's just kind of like being a natural born performer, I think knocks a lot of the shyness out of the way. Had to get over the stage fright as a child pretty much. You can't be shy in this line of work, especially live performance. So, I think that's why some parts of this have been very easy as opposed to difficult.
Getting back to Daima. So what's really interesting is in GT when Goku would go Super Saiyan 4, because he was so powerful, he would become an adult again. Obviously, you're not voicing adult Goku, but in Daima, which is coming up here shortly, you're now becoming Super Saiyan 4 in kid form. How was that now that obviously, you're in GT, you didn't get to do that, but now in Daima, you get to play Super Saiyan 4 Goku in kid form.
It's just for me, it was really in you're just capturing the essence of OG Goku and bringing that into GT with that voice, but he's an adult in a kid's body. So having done GT was very helpful for me to jump right into Daima because it's the same concept. But yeah, it was more through the delivery of the lines and the direction to encapsulate the fact that Goku is in a small body, a kid body, same kid voice, but I think that I was trying to give him more of an adult, um, the concept of actually really being an adult Goku, but having not really I guess it's kind of like a restriction because the voice has to match OG Goku. But I think that through the acting and having acting experience is really important, which is what I always tell aspiring voice actors. You may have a great voice, or you may sound amazing, or you may be a great mimic. All of that is great, but if you don't have the acting chops, it could it's going to be a more difficult road to approach voice acting as a full-time career. So for me, it was just really trying to think about each line as an adult Goku, but deliver the line in the kid Goku voice. And hopefully I did that. I definitely worked at that and wanted that to be very clear. But Kid Goku is just, even adult Goku, he's still that kid, but as an adult. So it's like he's not. I mean, he's a little smarter because he's lived life longer and he's been, channeling more energy and gaining strength throughout all of the various forms. But that was what was different for me is when, having voiced the character for many years and then coming back and doing GT was like, okay, I got the voice down. Now what are we going to do about how the lines are delivered and how they're going to sound so that it makes sense and it's believable?
Right. Is there anything in Daima that you want the fans to look out for? Like, was there any particular scene that you did that you were like, oh yeah, you definitely need to check this out?
Well, now that it's out every Friday and episode 13 just dropped last Friday, and I'm watching it, every Friday or Saturday. I know when I was in the UK a couple weeks ago, we couldn't watch it on Crunchyroll Premium because we didn't have the VPN or whatever you're supposed to have when you're overseas. And so we just waited and watched two at a time when we got back. But I know that episode 4 and episode 8 so far are my favorites. There were just some really cool scenes and some great humor. All the episodes I think are great. I'm a little biased, obviously, but um, I mean, the only thing I'd say is definitely give it a try. Some of the fans are skeptical because they think it might be another GT, but this one is hands-on Akira Toriyama all the way through. Um, he's a great storyteller. He's amazing with making the stories, follow the original story and how they're placed in the timeline. So, it's a demon realm. It's a whole new adventure. It's not, it's completely different. So for the skeptics out there, give it a shot, give it a try. And, at some point they'll all be out anyway, and they'll be easier to access and you can binge watch, you know, however you'd like. If you want to watch one at a time, or I think Daima is also bringing new life into the franchise, being that it's the newest, most recent thing. And a lot of the fans who are older, who grew up watching it, are now watching it with their kids. They're starting them over with Dragon Ball, or the kids might be into Daima first, and then they want to kind of understand a little bit more about the story in general, and so they'll watch the beginning. Go at the beginning. I know that there's I meet a lot of couples, boyfriends and girlfriends, fiancés, people that are sharing life together, and one would get the other one into it. And a lot of times they'd start with OG Dragon Ball and say, let's watch it from the very beginning. And they watch all of them. They can be all caught up. Then you can go into, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super. I wasn't in Kai. But you know, it's just neat to see how, the franchise is gaining fans all the time, different ages, older, younger. Um, it's just like its own universe, really.
I would always highly recommend people start with the original Dragon Ball series with Kid Goku because it's the foundation and also it's so much fun.
It's so lighthearted and crazy hilarious and somewhat inappropriate too, all at the same time, which kind of gives the viewer a really good idea of Akira's sense of humor. It's quirky. It's derived from an entirely different country with their own set of ideals and morals and concepts and traditions. So, yeah, I think it's always good to start at the beginning. I know that if I was going to be starting in a franchise or a series, I would like to start from the beginning because I think it would just make more sense throughout uh, the next one because there are so many characters, and I know that some people say I can't keep them apart, or like maybe a fan will come in person with their mom or their dad and they're just so confused, but they know that they, have this black hair and it turns gold when they're super strong. And then they learn about the concept of Super Saiyan. And so if someone's really genuinely interested, I think it does help to go back to simpler times when it just kind of tells you the basic story of Goku and his adventures from the beginning. And it also, like you said, it's a lot more fun. It's got a lot of slapstick humor, but it's got great battle scenes. The World Martial Arts Tournament is where I'm at right now watching. And it's just nice to see the OG voice actors, who some of them are friends of mine, and to this day. So it's just really really enlightening to go and watch what their contribution was to the series from the beginning, and that's highly recommended. But we are getting new fans of Daima. Like I said, we have some that are just not sure yet, or they're busy and they don't want to watch it yet, or they don't have the time to watch it for whatever reasons. But it's just nice to know that it's out there and it'll be available on the internet forever. And it's really cool that Netflix has picked it up. I don't know how prevalent anime is on Netflix as a whole. I don't have Netflix. I mean, I travel so much that I really don't have much time to watch it. But yeah, um, I love hearing the feedback. Good, bad, the ugly, whatever. It's people have different tastes, and I respect any and all opinions about it.
Well, the demon world is a surprisingly fun place. So here's just kind of a silly question that one of our staff came up for you. If you could spend a day in any anime world, no danger, just fun, which one would you choose and why?
Um, I would probably. I mean, I'm really into Daima. It's brand new for me, and um, the demon realm is it's a whole new world. It's a whole new adventure, and that's the whole idea behind the story with the entire show. So probably the Daima Demon World. There's a lot of brand new surprises and different types of different characters and lots of other characters that are turned into kids as well. So there's all kinds of minis with a lot of new talent. Or some are established. I know they've cast some of the roles to out of state talent that's already kind of been established. So that's kind of cool that they've opened it up to that. It kind of gives some of us hope that, or our other talent hope that there might be a way for them to get cast in something significant, uh, not living in Dallas Fort Worth and not recording in person. But yeah, probably the Demon World. But I also really have a big giant affection for the original Dragon Ball when Goku was just a kiddo and he was training with Krillin and Master Roshi. Just a simple, fun time, and it's just got a lot of humor. There's definitely humor also in Daima, but some excellent battles with top of the line animation. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful.
Yeah, I see the Dragon Ball world as like just advanced enough, but with a lot of old elements. Like there's dinosaurs running around and stuff. So even though there's modern advancements and creature comforts, you also got all kinds of bizarre creatures roaming around. It just seems like a fun place to hang out.
Yeah. Yeah, and there is some danger, but it's fun playing Goku. He's just fearless. He's not afraid of anything. He's just kind of like that's who that's who he is. He encompasses that. And it's just funny to see this extreme danger all around him. And he's kind of like, I got this. It's like he he enjoys combat. So he's like whatever comes his way, it's like he's ready to go for it. So I can see how he is beloved in that regard. Because whether it's Goku or Gohan, I know that I get a lot of feedback. It's like, hey, the story of Gohan's the developmental story behind him and where he came from and where he ended up is a huge part of what got me through hard times. Or sometimes people work out to the Dragon Ball Z music and they want to get tough and they want to be strong and they want to be physically and mentally stronger because they watch the show and they see its benefit. Martial arts is very much exactly that. Um so yeah, I mean, I'm already kind of like forgetting what the exact question was, but I hope I answered it. But
You did.
okay.
Goku's other passion is food. So, what is your favorite food that Goku would try to steal from you?
Oh, well, just about anything, especially in the demon realm, man. He's chomping down on lizard-looking reptiles and
What are those burgers made out of?
bugs.
Do I even want to know?
I know we never get the answer. Glorio just specifically says you don't want to know that. You don't want to know the answer to that one. Yeah. So, he's fearless about food. Now he'll tell you if he doesn't like it. But I know that there's a certain kind of bug that he carries around that's like a revive bug, and it's somewhat like a sensu bean. And there's some different types of foods that make you feel more full. It's kind of magical little things here and there that appears throughout the series. I love
Oh,
food. I have that in common with Goku. I don't eat nearly as much as that kid, but my
who
favorite
does?
foods are traditional Mexican food, South Texas, because it's not Tex-Mex spicy. I don't like spicy food, but I love garlic and salt. So I love Asian food, Japanese food in particular. Um, he'd steal all of that and more.
Oh yeah.
Got a sweet tooth, working on it. Not easy. I'm trying to be better about my diet anyway. I'm getting older, trying to incorporate some exercise and, watch the cholesterol, blah, 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 blah. But, yeah, Asian food in particular, traditional Mexican. And, I'm also a big fan of American food. I love steaks and burgers but I'll also eat a tofu stir fry. So thankfully I like vegetables. But yeah, Goku would eat all of that and more. I know I would definitely not eat some of what he's been eating in Daima. Absolutely not. I am not that adventurous, and the other characters around him are not either. So it's pretty funny to
What, you
watch him.
don't want to drink the drink that has eyeballs in it?
Oh, right. And then he's eating something at some point that it looks like sushi, but they look like they have eyes. So they look
Yeah.
like they're little creatures that he's eating. It's really
Oh.
bizarre. But it's funny. It's quirky and funny, and that's what Goku does. In fact, one of the episodes recently, he's walking across the screen, just randomly eating some giant piece of fruit, which we hope is not poisonous. Who knows? Uh, and he's always seems like he's always hungry, which is adds to the humor because he just is. I mean, that's just who Goku is, and he's got a lot of energy, and he needs to eat to keep up the strength. So yeah, food is definitely something I enjoy. But moderation with anything, right? You don't want to overeat or overwork out or over anything. So got to
Yeah,
keep it in.
Goku's not good at moderation.
No, no, and it's fine. I don't know where he puts it, but okay. He's got a small body. I don't know where it all went.
He's got a metabolism like the Flash. It's, it's
Comes right
gone.
off.
It's gone.
Yeah, all in his power.
Well, this has been a lovely conversation. It's been so great talking to you. Is there anything you would like to tell our listeners about before we finish this up?
Just that I love you guys. You guys are like my whole world. I mean, I really do sincerely embrace the role of anime mom and anime auntie. I hold the babies and take pictures with the families. I've got these cute little giveaways of things from time to time that I just give to the kids, and little Dragon Balls or you know, um, with the parents' permission, of course. Um, I like to spend time with the fans. I don't want to rush anybody through. If there's a line, I'm certainly aware of it, but I try to give everybody 100% of my attention, which is great because I have my manager with me pretty much all the time. and I trust him implicitly. So that allows me to be comfortable so I can relax and just be myself at the events. And I'm always ready for, a shout out or, a video with fans, doing a Kamea wave or group pictures with, all the different positions that the characters take on and the poses and all that. I really get into the cosplay. I'm really impressed by a lot of that as well. But down at heart, I'm a family person, and I'm very I've unfortunately lost most of my family to early in life, long before their time. So I embrace that with the conventions and the appearances, because that's where I can get right back into that family type of feeling where I feel like I'm amongst family members, and some of my friends, well, they started out as fans, are now my friends, and I have my super fans that are now, on my speed dial, and I keep up with them, and I spend free time milling through the socials and supporting my not only my classmates, because I moved around every 2 to 3 years throughout my young years, and it was very difficult. It's how I kind of stay in touch with people, whether they're family members or friends or classmates. So I take time out of my day to answer fan mail, questions, try to keep people up to date with my appearances if and when I'll be in their region. I try to find out where they live so I can figure out if I'm going to be in that region in the coming months, and I keep a tight calendar and take good notes. And yeah, so stephanienadolny.com is my website. It's the best way to go to try to find out a little bit about my background and a little bit about, what I've done in my career, kind of a synopsis, whatever that word is. It's got my bio and some little video, like a live video of us performing at the WinStar Casino. I'm hoping to add to that. But I also have my socials on there, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I am a little more active on X now that I'm sort of navigating it a little bit more. So I got a little bit more feel about how that all works. But, I try to stay away from the negativity, because there's definitely, a lot of bullies out there. And I dealt with a ton of them moving around being the new girl, especially in the small towns. But that makes me an advocate for anti-bullying too. So I can be a support and encouragement to people who are struggling with various things, specifically things I've been through myself. So I think that's why we're here. We got to help each other out. We're all walking each other home, and focus on the positives, because there's definitely a lot of danger and darkness out there. But we wouldn't see the light without the dark. So you got to have both. And we all have a dark side, and we all have a light good side. So it's just which side are you gonna feed? Which wolf are you gonna feed? The darkness or the light? And so, that is a ever present, omnipotent concept. Whether you're a Stoic or a Buddhist or a Christian or whatever it is that you believe. So yeah, I'd much rather be a light than cast any darkness out there, for sure.
I just had to take a moment to drink that in. Thank you. That was profound.
Oh, okay. Thank you, I guess. Yeah, lived quite a bit of life. We all have, but once you get up into your, 40s, start of the 50s, you start to just have a whole new perspective on life and how quickly it just flows by. It seems like the hard times, the dark times go slow, and then just everyday life just boom. It's like, oh shoot, it's already time to unpack, repack, do the laundry, take care of the animals, and get back out on the road. It's like crazy.
Yeah. Life comes at you fast when you're just doing the usual.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just touring and traveling, but just with a completely different career, a completely different way of expressing myself through the voice. But yeah, music's still on the table, and I'm definitely looking for opportunities to get more involved with music and writing and producing. And my website has a couple songs that I wrote that are super cute and fun for kids, Halloween rocks and kids Christmas. So I'm finding ways to have the music involved. And road trips, it's all about the music. It's all about what we're going to listen to. Trade songs, going back and forth to songs we hadn't heard in many years. Now there's just more avenues to do that, with the online apps, whether it's jazz or, anything you're into, it's there. And it makes it easier to get access to the really good stuff that you really like. And music takes you back. Reminds you of things you went through and where were you then and where are you now? And the lyrics just have an all new meaning. It's like a whole new story. It's pretty cool. Music is everything. It's therapy. It's the foundation of anything voice related for me is music.
Yeah, I totally get that. The way a song can take you back to a moment in life.
And you don't have to be a musician to really embrace music at all. You don't have to be a singer, a musician. You don't have to write it. But if you can feel the lyrics of a song and the music changes you or makes you feel a certain way, um, then that must be a dang good song. Yep.
Well, thank you again so much, Stephanie, for joining us. We really appreciate having you on here. This has been great.
Thanks for having me.